Very good morning, dear students. This video is for class 10 subject science chapter number 4 carbon and its compounds, and this is lecture assignment 1 solutions. In our assignment 1 for chapter 4 we were having 12 questions in total. So the first question is, what are organic compounds? Explain with the examples. And the solution is, the compounds of carbon containing usually hydrogen and other elements like oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur or phosphorus are called organic compounds. For example, methane, which is having a formula CH4, in which carbon is bonded with 4 other hydrogen atoms. Another example is C2H5OH. This organic compound is called ethanol, and in this organic compound we have 2 carbon atoms which are bonded with other 5 hydrogen atoms along with the oxygen molecule. These are the structures for methane and ethanol. Methane CH4, where carbon is bonded with 4 other hydrogen atoms, whereas in ethanol 2 carbon atoms are arranged with 5 hydrogen and 1 oxygen atom. This oxygen atom is further attached with hydrogen, which is forming alcohol functional group. That is why this is called ethanol. And why carbon is having a capability to form a large number of compounds? Because of its 2 important properties, that is catenation. Catenation is a self-linking property of carbon, by virtue of which it can make covalent bonds with 4 other atoms. Or you can say that carbon can link with other carbon atom and it can make an infinitely long chain. The second property is tetravalency. As we know that carbon is having a valency of 4 electrons, and because of this 4 valence electrons, neither it can lose 4 electrons nor it can gain 4 electrons. So the only method by which it can stabilize itself is by forming covalent bonds. And because of the formation of covalent bonds, it is capable to make large number of organic compounds by combining with other atoms of different elements as well as carbon atom. But some of the organic compounds, some of the compounds which are having carbon, but they are not called as organic compounds, because there is no direct covalent bond between the carbon and carbon and hydrogen. That means in an organic compound it is required that the formation of carbon and carbon should be there, or carbon should be having a covalent bond with hydrogen. So the exceptions are carbonates, cyanides, carbides and oxides of carbon, that is CO2, carbon dioxide, and CO, that is carbon monoxide. So these are some of the exceptions of organic compounds. Now let us move on the second question. Question 2 is, what are hydrocarbons? Explain. Now let us study about the hydrocarbons. Hydrocarbon, as the name suggests, that these are the organic compounds that contain only hydrogen and carbon atoms. Depending upon the bonds formation between the carbon and carbon atoms, hydrocarbons can be saturated hydrocarbons or unsaturated hydrocarbons. Saturated hydrocarbons are the hydrocarbons in which carbon is having single covalent bond with other carbon atom and single bond with the hydrogen atom as well. But in case of unsaturated hydrocarbons, carbon can form double or triple bonds between the carbon-carbon atoms, and it will be having single bonds with the hydrogen atom in the unsaturated hydrocarbons too. Third question is, what is the meaning of functional group? Functional group, an atom or group of atoms joined in a specific manner which is responsible for the characteristic chemical properties of the organic compound, are called functional group. So that atom or group of atoms is called functional group, which provides the characteristics, or you can say which is responsible for the chemical properties of the organic compound. Here, two molecules of having different sizes but same functional group will take part in chemical reactions that are similar or exactly the same. The presence of a functional group in a molecule implies that the behavior and the chemical reactions of a molecule in a question can be predicted in a systematic fashion. Just by seeing the functional group, we can predict the behavior and the type of chemical reactions that the organic compound will show. We have some examples of functional groups. One is hydroxyl group, that is dash OH. This dash is representing the bond, the covalent bond that this functional group will form with the alkyl chain, or you can say the carbon atoms of organic compound. So this is the bond that will be combined with the organic compound. This hydroxyl group is also called alcohol functional group. Second is aldehyde group. Aldehyde group is dash CHO. This carbon is having one covalent bond free that can be combined with the organic compounds, and it is having double bond with the oxygen and single bond with the hydrogen. So it is left with only one covalent bonding that will be done in the organic compounds. Here you can see C2H5OH, 2 carbon atoms with 5 hydrogen atoms, and one OH hydroxyl group is attached with this carbon atom. Another example you can see here, HCHO, which is having only one carbon. So it will be a mid CHO, C double bond O, H. So this is the functional group which is having just single covalent bond left to be made either with the hydrogen or with a long alkyl chain. So this CHO group is functional group is called aldehyde group, and this is named as al. That means at the end of the name of organic compound having functional group CHO will be called as functional parent chain will be called first, and then we will add the al. So it is having just single carbon atom, so it will be called methanol. And this compound which is having two carbon atoms and alcohol group is there, so this will be called ethanol. Question number 4 is explain the different allotropic forms of carbon, how and why they have different physical properties. The first thing that comes in our mind is allotropy. Allotropy, the property by virtue of which an element can exist in more than one forms, is called allotropy. And the various forms of an element which have the similar chemical properties but different physical properties are called allotropic forms of that particular atom. So here we are talking about the carbon. So carbon, depending upon the arrangement of the atoms in the compounds, carbon can be divided into two broad categories, crystalline carbon and amorphous carbon. The crystalline carbon is further divided into two parts, diamond and graphite. Amorphous carbon is having three different categories, coal, charcoal, lamp black. Where coal is further divided into coal and gas carbon, charcoal is divided into plant and animal charcoal. Plant charcoal is divided into wood charcoal and sugar charcoal. Animal charcoal is divided into bone charcoal and blood charcoal. Along with these two crystalline forms of carbon, we have one more category, that is fullerenes, which are recently developed. So let us try to understand them in a brief. First allotropic form of carbon is diamond. Diamond is the purest crystalline form of carbon. Its symbol is C, and in the structure of the diamond, the carbon atoms, they are arranged in tetrahedral shapes. Tetrahedral shape means each carbon atom is linked to its neighbors by 4 single covalent bonds. Each carbon is attached with another carbon by a single covalent bond. And because of this tetrahedral geometry, this allotropic form of carbon, that is diamond, this leads to the three-dimensional network of covalent bonds. Because of this three-dimensional covalent bonding, diamond is a non-conductive of heat and electricity because there is no free electron which is left so that it can conduct electricity. Let us try to understand the arrangement of carbon atoms in an allotropic form, that is diamond. So as I told you that carbon is arranged in tetrahedral fashion. So here you can see the arrangement of carbon atoms in tetrahedral fashion, that one carbon is arranged or making 4 covalent bonds with 4 different carbon atoms. This is the central carbon which is arranged with 4 carbon atoms and forming a tetrahedral geometry, and this formation, this tetrahedral geometry is taken in a three-dimensional shape. We have one more picture. Yes, here you can see that this carbon is tetrahedrally arranged or making 4 covalent bonds with 4 other carbon atoms, and this way no carbon is left free or no electron is free to move in the structure. This causes the rigidity of diamond. It makes it very hard, and all the nuclei, they are attached with the other nuclei of carbon very strongly, which makes it the hardest substance found on the earth. Now let us talk about its properties. In case of appearance, diamond is a transparent and a shiny, transparent, colorless material which is having high refractive index, and because of which it shines very much. Because the light which enters into the diamond will remain into the diamond itself because of its high refractive index. It occurs as octahedral crystals, shines very good when properly cut and polished, and because of this reason it is used as a jewelry, or it is used to as a decorative ornament in the jewelries. The second is its hardness. Diamond is the hardest natural substance known till now. Density, it is having a very high density, that is 3.5 grams per milliliter. Electrical conductivity. So it's a non-conductor of electricity, as we have seen that in its structure there is no electron left which is free, which can conduct electricity, and because of which it is a non-conductor. It is also a non-conductor of heat. It's insoluble in any of the substances, and it is having no effect on any other substance or air at room temperature. But when it is heated in air at 1000 degrees Celsius or more, it burns to give carbon dioxide gas. It is having very high melting and boiling points because of the rigidity in the structures. Graphite. Graphite is the another allotropic form or crystalline form of carbon. It occurs free in nature and most widely distributed in nature than diamond. It is artificially prepared by heating anthracite coal with a little iron oxide or silica in an electric furnace. Now let us try to understand the structure of graphite. See this structure. This is a model which shows the arrangement of carbon atoms in graphite. You can see here that carbon atoms are forming a hexagonal ring, and they are further bonded with the hexagonal rings only, and these are the weak intermolecular forces shown by this strip, or you can say this line, which is telling us the interaction between the two planar hexagonal rings of carbon atoms. This one is another ring which is formed. The lower one is also a hexagonal ring of carbon atoms. So graphite is arranged in parallel or flat carbon rings which are having a weak intermolecular force in between each layer. But now one important thing to note here is that one carbon is attached with 3 more carbons. That means its valency is not satisfied, and one electron is still left to be bonded or to get this atom stabilized. And because of this free electron, the graphite, which is an allotropic form of carbon, can conduct heat and electricity, although it is a non-metal. But still, because there is one free electron in the structure of the graphite, then this free electron can move throughout the structure, and hence it helps in the conduction of electricity and heat. Here one more diagram is there in front of you, just to make you understand that how the layered structure of hexagonal rings of carbon atoms looks like in a graphite allotropic form of carbon. So here you can see that this is the lower hexagonal ring which is continuing, and this is the middle one, and this is the upper one. There are so many layers of hexagonal planar rings of carbon atoms arranged, and these long lines or these lines are showing the intermolecular forces or attraction between each layer. As this force is weak, this intermolecular force of attraction between two layers is weak. That is why one layer can slide over the other, and hence graphite is a slippery compound. This is how a graphite looks like in commercial form, that it is having layers in its structure. Now, as we have understood the structure of graphite, let us talk about the properties of graphite. When we talk about its appearance, so it is greyish black in color, opaque, having metallic shine, and have hexagonal crystals in its structure. It is soft, it forms the layers which can slide over the other, Its density is lighter than the diamond. It is a good conductor of heat as well as electricity. Its melting point and boiling points are high because of the covalent bonds between the carbon atoms. It is insoluble in all common solvents but gives carbon dioxide when reacts with air on a temperature more than 100 degrees Celsius. Then we have fullerenes, which are another allotropic form of carbon. Here I have written C60 because C60 is a particular type of fullerene that is having 60 carbon atoms arranged in the form of a football or a spherical ball kind of structure, which is hollow and cage-like structure. This ball-like structure or hollow spherical ball is also called Buckminster fullerene. This allotropic form of carbon, fullerene, is soluble in benzene. It is prepared by heating the graphite in the atmosphere of helium. There are more forms of fullerenes like C17, C90 or C120. Its structure looks like this, that spherical ball is formed and here also carbon is arranged in the hexagonal rings which are forming a cage-like structure which is inside hollow. The next allotropic form of carbon is amorphous carbon. Amorphous carbon is, as the name suggests, that this form of carbon is not having a particular fashion of arrangement of carbon atoms in their structure, and that is why the amorphous carbon is having properties different than the crystalline forms of carbon. Even the crystalline forms of carbon, they have different properties, different physical properties I should say, because of the difference in their structures. As we have seen that carbon in the form of diamond is having no free electrons and it is taking a three-dimensional geometry in which carbon is arranged in the tetragonal fashion. Whereas in graphite, the carbon is arranged in the hexagonal rings and it is forming layers. In between the layers, there is a weak intermolecular force because of which it forms the layers and can slide over the other. And that is why graphite is slippery. And one more important thing about the graphite is that it is having one carbon covalently bonded with other 3 carbon atoms and 1 electron is free, which is called delocalized electron, which is responsible for the conduction of heat and electricity in the graphite. So there is a difference in the physical properties of the different allotropic forms of carbon because of the differences in their structures. Amorphous carbon, there is no regular geometry of them, so we cannot predict their physical properties, but depending upon the nature from where they are obtained, we have various kinds of amorphous carbon like wood charcoal, animal charcoal, sugar charcoal, lamp black, carbon black, petroleum coke. So these are the various forms of amorphous carbon. Question number 5 is, why is graphite slippery and good conductor of electricity? And the answer is that graphite is slippery because of the weak intermolecular forces between its layer that we have seen in the last question's answer, that how the graphite is forming layer type structure which is having a very weak intermolecular force between the layers. And that is why one layer can slide over the other layer and hence graphite is slippery in nature. The second question which is asked is, why graphite is a good conductor of electricity? So In the structural diagram of graphite, we have seen that graphite is having one carbon valency which is not fulfilled. So here we have one electron which is free and which can move throughout the structure. Because of it, graphite can conduct electricity, and this free electron arises because each carbon atom is only bonded to 3 other carbon atoms. As we have seen in the diagram, these electrons in graphite are free to move throughout the structure and hence can conduct heat and electricity, and that is why graphite is a very good conductor of electricity. Question number 6 is, what is a carbon fiber, and writes its uses. So carbon fiber, as the name suggests, it is a fiber made up of carbon. But here carbon, as we know that carbon is having many allotropic forms, so generally graphite is used to make the carbon fibers, and these carbon fibers are formed when carbon atoms are bonded together in crystals that are aligned parallel to the long axis of the fiber. This carbon fiber is having some advantages like high stiffness, high tensile strength, low weight, high chemical resistance, high temperature tolerance and low thermal expansion. And because of having good advantages, or you can say that because of having all these properties, the carbon fiber is used in aerospace, because in aerospace we need the lightweight aircrafts, in the civil engineering for the strength requirement, because carbon fibers, they are very thin, very lightweight, but their strength is very high because of the carbon content. And the carbon fibers, they are also used in militaries to make the suits for the armaments. Carbon fiber is also used in motor sports because they are having a very strong tensile strength, and because of that property they are used in motor sports. Our next question is, write the differences between saturated and unsaturated carbon compounds. Now let us see the differences between the saturated and unsaturated carbon compounds. Saturated carbon compound. The first difference between the saturated and unsaturated compounds is the saturated organic compounds contain single carbon-carbon covalent bond, whereas the unsaturated organic compounds, they contain double and triple carbon-carbon covalent bonds. Second difference is, due to the presence of all single covalent bonds, these compounds are less reactive because all the valencies of carbon are fully utilized, whereas the unsaturated compounds, because of the presence of double and triple bonds, these compounds are more reactive. Saturated organic compounds, they undergo the substitution reactions, whereas unsaturated organic compounds, they undergo the addition reaction. The fourth difference is, these compounds, saturated organic compounds, do not react with the aqueous solution of bromine. Unsaturated organic compounds, they decolorize the aqueous solution of bromine to form saturated hydrocarbons, as we have seen in the one of the exercise questions of chapter number 4. We have taken one example of butter and oil. So in that we have seen that saturated carbon compounds, they do not react with the bromine water, whereas unsaturated decolorize the color of bromine and the saturated hydrocarbons are formed. Some more differences we have, that saturated hydrocarbons, they are found in all the oils and natural gases, whereas the unsaturated hydrocarbons, they exist in solid, liquid, gases, and they are found in vegetable ghee. Most of these saturated hydrocarbons are alkanes. Alkanes are the hydrocarbons which are having single covalent bonds between the carbon atoms, whereas the unsaturated hydrocarbons are alkenes and alkynes, because they are having double or triple bonds. So the hydrocarbon which will be having double bond between the carbon atoms will be called alkenes, whereas the hydrocarbons which will be having triple bonds between the carbon atoms are alkynes. The general formula for alkanes is CnH2n plus 2. For example, if we have carbon as 1, then the general formula for alkane or the formula for C1 will become CH4, that is methane. Whereas the general formula for alkenes is CnH2n and for alkynes CnH2n minus 2. Let us move on the next question now. What is homologous series? Explain with the examples. Although this question we have discussed many a times, because this was one of the questions of your exercise as well. And the answer for this is, a homologous series is a group of organic compounds having similar structures, similar chemical properties, in which the successive compound differ by CH2 group or mass 40 units. So a homologous series is a series of carbon compounds that are having different number of carbon atoms, but they contain the same functional group. As we have talked about the similar chemical properties, and in the functional group question we have also discussed that only the functional groups are the atoms or the group of atoms which provide the characteristic of chemical reactivity to the organic compounds. For example, methanol, ethanol, propanol, butanol all are the part of alkanol homologous series, and the general formula for this series is CnH2n plus 1. OH. OH is the functional group which will be attached with the alkane series. So for the methane, which will be having one carbon, CH3OH, ethane having carbon atoms 2, CH3CH2OH, or you can say C2H5OH. Propanol, CH3CH2CH2OH. So it can also be called as C3H7OH, and the series can be taken further ahead, like we are having 4 carbon atoms, 5 carbon atoms, and so on. The hydrogen number will also increase, but the OH functional group will be attached with all. So you can see here that in each successive member of the series we have a difference of CH2 group. Question number 9 is, explain the following with the examples. A. Aliphatic compounds. B. Alkanes, alkenes and alkynes. C. Aromatic compounds. D. Alcohols. E. Aldehydes. F. Ketones. G. Carboxylic acids. H. Amines and I. Phenyl groups. Now let us begin with the first one, aliphatic compounds. An aliphatic compound is an organic compound containing carbon and hydrogen joined together in a straight chain, branched chain or non-aromatic ring. Open chain compounds that contain no rings are also aliphatic, whether they contain single, double or triple bonds. That means they can be saturated or unsaturated. Some of the aliphatics are cyclic molecules which are having carbon atoms arranged in the form of rings, but their rings are not as stable as those of aromatic compounds. For example, the simplest aliphatic compound is methane, CH4. B part is we have to explain alkanes, alkenes and alkynes. So alkanes, alkenes and alkynes are the hydrocarbons. Alkanes are the saturated hydrocarbons in which all the carbon atoms are bonded with other carbon atom and hydrogen by a single bond. For example, C2H6. Here you can see that two carbons are arranged in such a way that two carbon atoms are also forming a single covalent bond with each other, and they are forming single covalent bonds with other hydrogen atoms. This way C2H6 molecule is formed. Second is alkenes. Alkenes are the unsaturated hydrocarbons in which two carbon atoms are bonded with double covalent bond. For example, C2H4. So when we are decreasing the number of hydrogen atoms, so the valencies of carbon will be fulfilled by making a double bond with the other carbon atom in the following way. Here you can see two carbon atoms are covalently bonded with four hydrogen atoms in this way, that carbon atom is forming double bond with the other carbon and forming single bonds with the hydrogen atom. Whereas in the case of alkynes, carbon will form a triple bond with the other carbon atom and the remaining valency will be fulfilled by the hydrogen atoms. So alkynes are the unsaturated hydrocarbons in which two carbon atoms are bonded with triple covalent bonds is called alkyne. The example we have seen, that C2H2, where carbon and carbon are having triple bonds in between them and the remaining valency is fulfilled by the single hydrogen atom for each carbon atom. C part is, what are aromatic compounds? Aromatic means the compounds which are having some aroma or smell. Aromatic compounds are the substances that consist of one or more rings that contain the alternating single and double bonds in the chemical structure. For example, benzene is an aromatic compound because benzene is having a particular type of smell or odor, you can say. So let us see the structure of benzene. Here you can see benzene, which is having a formula C2C6H6. Having the chemical formula C6H6, where 6 carbon atoms are arranged in such a way that they are forming a ring. And in this ring, carbon atoms, they are forming alternate double bonds with the other carbon atoms, and hence the remaining 1,1 valency of each carbon atom is fulfilled by the hydrogen atom. So this way a benzene ring is formed or a benzene molecule is formed. Next part of the question is alcohols. Alcohols are the organic compounds which carry at least one hydroxyl functional group bound to a saturated carbon atom. And this we have seen in the functional group question, that hydroxyl group or OH is the functional group which is having one valency or one covalent bond which is free to be bounded with the alkyl chain. For example, ethanol, we have seen the structure of ethanol also. Here, ethane is the alkyl chain, alkyl group, and the hydroxyl group is attached with it and forming ethanol. The next is aldehydes. Aldehydes are the organic compounds in which a carbon atom shares a double bond with the oxygen atom, a single bond with the hydrogen atom, and a single bond with another atom of the atom or group of atoms, this double bond between the carbon and oxygen is the characteristic of all the aldehydes, and this specially carbon and oxygen, which is having a double bond in between them, is known as carbonyl group. Next is ketones. Ketones are the organic compounds containing a carbonyl group, that is C double bond O, but here this C is bonded to two hydrocarbon groups. Why it can be bonded with two other hydrocarbon groups or two other atoms? Because it is having two valencies to be fulfilled. Because two valencies of this carbon are fulfilled by combining with oxygen, forming two covalent bonds with it, and the remaining two valencies can be fulfilled by either making covalent bonds with the alkyl groups or some hydrogen atoms. So the simplest compound is acetone. Acetone is CH3COCH3. So it is having two methyl groups at the extreme ends of the chain, and the middle carbon is the ketone functional group. Next is carboxylic acids. A carboxylic acid is an organic compound that contains a carboxylic group, that is C double bond O, and C is also having a single bond with OH. So here we have combination of two groups, two functional groups you can say. Carbonyl group is also there, alcoholic group is also there. That is why it is called carboxylic acid group. The general formula of a carboxylic acid is RCOOH, where R is the alkyl group. For example, carboxylic acids are the amino acids, or acetic acid are the examples of carboxylic acids. Or you can say HCOOH or CH3COOH can be the example of it. CH3COOH is the acetic acid. Next is amines. Amines are regarded as the derivatives of ammonia, that is NH3, in which 1, 2 or all the three hydrogen atoms are replaced by alkyl groups. So that will form the amine functional group or amine organic compounds. So as we have NH3, when one hydrogen atom is replaced, it can form one type of amine. If two hydrogen atoms are replaced, it can form another kind of amines. And if all the three hydrogen atoms are replaced by the alkyl group, then we can say the another type of amine functional group is formed. And this way there are generally three types of amines: primary, secondary and tertiary. So primary amines, as we have seen in when we were studying the functional groups, that this is NH2, and here one valency of nitrogen is left to be fulfilled, and that will combine with the alkyl chain to stabilize itself. The next is phenyl group. Phenyl group is a functional group having a formula C6H5. Just focus on the formula that for benzene we were having the formula C6H6, but for phenyl group we have C6H5. That means it is the portion of the organic molecule that is derived from the benzene molecule, that is C6H6, by removal of one hydrogen from it. And the term phenyl is used when a benzene ring is connected to a chain of 6 or more carbon atoms. That means when benzene C6H6 and one hydrogen is removed from any of the carbon atoms, and on the place of this carbon, this hydrogen, we are getting one alkyl chain attached to it. So that is forming a phenyl organic compound, and then that organic compound will be called as phenyl. Question number 10 is, what is a covalent bond and how is it different from ionic bonds? So we know that a covalent bond is formed due to the mutual sharing of electrons between two combining atoms. Both the nuclei, they attract the shared pair of electrons and a stable bond is formed between the two atoms. If a covalent bond, there is a sharing of electrons between the two combining atoms, whereas in case of an ionic bonding, there is a complete transfer of one or more electrons from one atom to another atom. So this is the difference between the covalent bonding and ionic bonding, that in case of covalent bonding, there is a sharing of electrons and both the nuclei of the atoms combining together with the help of covalent bonds, they attract the shared pair of electrons according to their nuclear forces. And in case of ionic bonding, one atom is transferring its electrons to another atom and hence forming the ionic bonds. For example, CH4, which is a covalent compound, and NaCl, which is an ionic compound. So you can see here that carbon is bonded with 4 hydrogen atoms, where each hydrogen is sharing its 1 electron and carbon is sharing its 4 electrons with 4 different hydrogen atoms to form covalent bonds with each other. Whereas in case of NaCl, sodium is giving 1 electron and getting a 1 plus charge on it, whereas Cl, which was in the need of 1 electron to complete its electronic configuration, takes that electron and gets 1 negative charge on it, and hence there is a force of attraction between these two ions. NaCl is a compound which is formed by the transfer of electron from sodium to chlorine, and that is why this compound is known as ionic compound, whereas CH4 is a molecule which is formed by the sharing of electrons between carbon and hydrogen atoms, and that is why this is called a covalent compound. Our question number 11 is, can a bond be 100% ionic or 100% covalent? Why or why not? And the answer is that a bond can never be 100% ionic or 100% covalent except the bond involves the same atoms, then the bond must be 100% covalent, because both the atoms, they have equal ability to attract the electron pair with same strength, and that is why that covalent bond which is formed between the same atoms is 100% covalent in nature. However, if the bond involves different atoms, then the bond will have mixed covalent and ionic character. This means there will be a partial ionic character too. Thus, except when the two atoms that are bonded are the same elements, for example, 2 oxygen atoms or 2 carbon atoms, a bond is always partially covalent or partially ionic. And the reason for this is that the electron is never completely transferred from one electron to another. The electron is shared rather than complete transfer. Question number 12 is, name the following compounds. A is CH3, CH2, CH2, OH. So we can see that functional group OH is present. 3 carbon atoms are there. So the parent chain will be propane. And because of the functional group OH, the suffix which we are using is -ol. So the name, IUPAC name of this compound will become propanol. And why we are not mentioning the position? Because the OH group comes on the first carbon itself. So there is no need to mention the position. So propanol is the IUPAC name of this compound. B is having CH3OH. So you can look at this compound that this is an alkyl group of methane, where CH4 was there in the methane molecule. One hydrogen is removed from here and OH group is attached to it. Now OH is the functional group, so suffix ol will be used, and CH3 is the alkyl group coming from the methane. And we know the rule that whenever two vowels are coming together, then we have to remove the E from the earlier one. Like methane will be having E at the end. So we have to remove that E and we have to add the ol directly to it. So methanol will be the IUPAC name for this compound. C is HOC-H, and this is having a double bond here. So carbon's valency is fulfilled because one valency is fulfilled here, 2 here and 1 is here. So you can see this is forming COOH functional group, and it is attached with hydrogen atom to complete its valency. So only one carbon is there, so it will be a methyl alkyl chain, and because of the presence of COO carboxylic functional group COOH, this will be called as oic acid. So when we combine the two terms, which is methane as the parent chain and oic acid as the suffix, so the name will become methanoic acid. D is CH3CH2COOH. So again we are having the carboxylic acid functional group, but here the carbons are 3 in number, so alkyl chain will be propane. And when we combine propane and oic acid, we have to remove the E from it, so the name will become propanoic acid. Next is CH3CH2CH2CO CH3. Here you can see that we are having a CO bond, which is carbonyl bond, or you can say the ketone functional group is here. This carbon, we have to satisfy the valencies of this carbon, so single bond here, and it will be having 2 bonds with the oxygen atom. So this way we have a ketone functional group for which we use the suffix -one. But as this is a non-terminal functional group, that means it will always come in between the alkyl chains. So there is a need to mention its position in the IUPAC name. So you can see here that we have 5 carbon atoms. So it will be a pentane chain. Parent chain will be pentane. Then we have to mention the position of the ketone group. So the name will be pentane. Remove the E from here. Dash 2. 2 is the position because second carbon is having the oxygen. Always give the priority to the functional groups while naming or numbering the carbon atoms. Dash -one. -one is the suffix used for ketone functional group. So the name is pentane 2-one, or you can also write it as 2-pentanone. F is CH3CH2CH2CH2COH. So this COH can also be called as CHO. So this is an aldehyde group. Carbon numbers are 5 in number. So pentane chain will be there as a parent chain. Aldehyde is the functional group. So al will be used as a suffix. So while naming we will call it as pentane al. E will be removed and we will combine the two together. So it will be called as pentanal. G is CH3CH2CH2CH2COOH. So again we are having a carboxylic functional group here. But carbon are present in 5 carbon atoms. Number is 5. So we can name it as pentanoic acid. That was all about the assignment. Now, as we have to start a new chapter, but before starting a new chapter, I'm giving you a few questions, some activities and experiments so that you can move on or you can think about the next concept that we are going to study. So, the homework for chapter 5, that is periodic classification of elements, and this is a pre-text assignment to you. So the activities that you have to do is take the following elements like iron, aluminium, copper, zinc, iodine, bromine, lead, phosphorus and nickel. So I know you will not be having all the things in the list, but whatever you have at your home or in your surroundings, collect it and write as many as physical properties of these you can. Try to categorize them in the groups on these basis. Second is, consider the atomic structure. Now express your views about the following situations. A. How can an electron be removed from an atom up to infinite? Means what should happen to the energy of the system. B is, if the electrons are removed one by one from an atom, initially neutral, what should happen to the energy required to remove the next electron? So these are the part of the second activity. Now I'm giving you some pre-text questions, some thought questions I'm giving you. Whatever comes in your mind on the basis of your thinking, your previous knowledge, just note it down. Question 1 is, write your views about what may be the reasons that some substances react with some of the substance while inert with the others. Second, the chemical properties of elements should depend on what? Express your views. Third, what may happen to the electronic configuration when a chemical reaction takes place? Write the different possibilities. Fourth, consider the aromatic structure and I'm repeating the question again. Consider the atomic structure and write how an atom of an element may be different from the atom of another element. So this is the homework for you. Do it according to your thinking, your previous knowledge, expand your knowledge, and then come to the first lecture of chapter number 5. So I'll see you in the lecture number 1 of chapter number 5 then. Till then, take care and goodbye.